Dante's Discussion.
Welcome back to another edition of Dante's Discussion Answers. That's right, we're answering the question of Dark Souls 2, of course, right? What else? A question I post on Fextra Life and, of course, on the YouTubes itself. What excites you about PvP? As you can see here, yet another question. What excites you? I said, I like seeing different weapons, different styles, different fashion souls, basically just different anything. I just like new, exciting, fresh, and difficult. I like when people are good too. I like facing good opponents. I don't like facing jerks who, either if you beat them, there are some of those people who are like, oh wow, way to use this good weapon, or way to spam or something. I'm like, okay, well, apparently you don't know how to play the game. I don't know what else to tell you. They just deflate your victories. I hate that, and I'm not saying I do either, but if you roll into me, I'm gonna hit you. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, let's start this off. Let's see what the people had to say. I'm excited. Inept Dark Lighter on YouTube says, I get excited about the Handmaid's Ladle being wielded by an opponent because it means that they want to serve me soup. I like soup. The soup! Oh man, that's good. That's awesome. Yeah, Handmaid's Ladle. I actually hate seeing the Handmaid's Ladle, and I'll tell you why. Because at least for me, I see it as a sign of disrespect. Because I'm like, oh, really? They think they can beat me with the ladle? That's how I see it. Of course, I probably play this game more than most people, but yeah. Next up, we have Septic Eye Sam. I think he actually has two in this, but he says, winning and a fair fight. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a lot of people. You get excited by winning, and I would definitely agree. I get excited by a nice, fair fight. A fight where both players are doing very similar damage, or even both players have the exact same weapon. I like those fights generally a little bit more, because it does seem a little bit more even, and I think that's pretty cool. Next up, we have Johnny Harpoon on Fextra Life says, I used to get a real rush from PvP. I guess it was the sort of thing where you can never be sure what someone had up their sleeve. The fight could be totally honorable and super scummy, and anyone could whip out anything at any time. Now, that feeling is pretty much saved for the really good, fun fights. Used to be the same feeling I get from sneaking around in Metal Gear, though that is now exclusive to particularly intense missions situations. Yeah, no, I agree. This happens with anything, right? Even with drugs, if you're a drug user. But if you're doing heroin today, it's not gonna feel as great as doing heroin tomorrow. That's why they always say people are like chasing that high, and I think that's what he's talking about. Is he used to get a rush? He doesn't get as much, but there are certain instances where he does, when it's really good or very fun fights. And I would consider ultra great swords and ultra great weapons, whatever. If both players are using them, I consider them super fun fights, because it's a strange chess match, and hopefully no one is too scummy with their wait and see play. Next up, we have Pete Hogg. Pete Hogg says, this is an awesome question. I think this video will be really fun to watch, as I'd love to hear people's opinions. Thank you, Pete Hogg. For me, I get excited with Dark Souls when I discover how to beat an opponent who was at one point impossible to beat. When I come across an opponent I just can't figure out how to beat, it is frustrating, but it's exhilarating when you discover a way to turn the tables. That moment when you figure it out is what gets me excited. It's really, really fun when you fight someone who's equal to your skill, that one person where you can't really dominate them, but they don't dominate you. It's almost 50-50. It's fun fighting people like that. I can almost 100% agree with you on this. I gotta say, this happened to me earlier. It doesn't happen to me too often now. I'd say never, if you don't mind me talking good about myself. But, finding opponents that you just can't beat. I don't see it. Generally, what happens to me is if I'm using like a bad weapon, or someone's wait and see and I have an ultra great, sometimes I can't beat somebody with like, Black Flamestone Dagger buffed up. Okay. But I understand, like, I don't chalk it up as not being able to beat them, but I really do want to try to beat them with the ultra great sword, because it just makes me feel that much better. But we're talking about, strictly like you have a good weapon, they have a good weapon, you can't beat them. This happened to me earlier in my career. I actually have a video with this guy EXDE or XD or however you want to say it. This was a guy where I think this was over a year ago. I did a showcase video with him where when I first saw him, I honestly thought this was the greatest PvP player I had ever seen. And I thought I was pretty good back then with the S stock. And this guy, I think we had like 12 fights in a row. He tore me up 11 of those fights. One fight was pretty close. But 11 fights, I got absolutely obliterated. And I was like, this is the greatest PvP player I had ever seen. I mean, this guy, he had aggression, he had spells, he was quick, he was always attacking, always doing something that made you like, whoa, whoa. And I was just not used to that. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I did a showcase with him. And in the showcases, when I do a showcase with other people, usually the last fight is I go against them. And I beat him in that last fight. And I was so psyched. I don't know if you can really tell in the video itself, but I was so damn happy. I was like, I really wanted that victory. And I remember them just destroying me and giving me all the problems. No one else ever really destroyed me like that ever. No one else ever in the entire game ever before or since. And oh man, it does feel great. It feels amazing. And those 50-50 fights are interesting. You know, sometimes you can't really tell if they're 50-50 or if I try to gauge it based on, oh, did I make a mistake or did they make a mistake? Because sometimes you beat opponents where you know they're better and like I flawless them, but I think it was just because everything went my way, you know, how I was playing as far as timing and whatnot. And I don't necessarily think they were a bad player. I think sometimes that just happens. You know, I've been flawless before with ultra weapons, and I'm like, Jesus, you know, normally I wouldn't lose or even get hit probably, but sometimes you just screw up and that's what happens. But so it's tough to really gauge the 50-50, but I definitely see that sometimes I used to be pretty even with me and Master RPG Gamer. I have a showcase with him. And then I think I started to pull ahead of him, maybe because I sort of knew his playstyle or whatnot. I'm not sure. But in the beginning, those were some intense, fun fights. You can check in the No HUD mode tournament, the first one. And yeah, it is fun. It's extremely fun finding someone who is like, whoa, you know, you really have to be wary about. Like, usually when I go in fights, I'm just like, I just attack and I go full force. But with certain players, you know, you sort of have to gauge what's going on. You know, you can't be too crazy. And I do appreciate those fights. Next up, we have on YouTube, Yashio Man. First of all, great topic. Second, Third, how can I let you know about a build I want you to potentially consider for one of your videos? The theme is get bled, get dead. I love it. You know, I don't know. Just put it in the comments. I'll read it. You know, I don't know if I'll ever do it. Honestly, Dark Souls 2 is on its way out, but yeah, get bled, get dead. I mean, that's also one thing I want to point out that makes fights fun is when you have a certain build and something you're trying to accomplish, whether it be bled or poison or even toxic. I don't think I've ever been toxic in PvP. Toxicized. I don't know what the hell you say. Which is interesting, but like, you know, having a sort of goal in a fight, I think is pretty awesome. You know, like parrying. Oh, I want to get a parry off. Obviously, you know, it's not going to work out every fight, but having a goal and then meeting that goal in a fight, I think that can make you excited or more excited about PvP, especially if it's been getting dull recently. On Fextra Life, NPC Invader says, hate mail and salt. It applies to every game. It's just easier here since you can interrupt peaceful and casual gaming sessions. Okay. That's okay. That's a little strange. I'm trying to see what he exactly means by interrupting. Because I know with me, when I get hate mail, I don't like it generally because usually it deflates a victory for me. You know, someone's like, "Oh, you're using the bandit axe." Like, sorry, you happen to catch me at the one time I'm using the bandit axe. Like, oh, good job pressing RT or R2 twice. Okay, sorry. I don't know. I don't know what else to do. You know, good job not dodging it. I don't know, but people love hate mail and salt. They love it. They love on the videos. They love seeing it. I don't get that much hate mail. I don't. I think partially because I don't buff or I generally don't do any what you would consider scrubby things. Generally, But I don't know. People love it. I'm not into it. I don't know. I mean, hate mail can be funny if someone sends you like a voice message and they're like, "Oh yeah, good job pairing me." I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, next up we have Eldritch Imagination, Victory, Accomplishment, Triumph, and what NPCs said. Okay. So this guy loves the accomplishment, loves the winning, loves the overcoming whatever obstacle was in their way. All right, here we go. All right, we have a list here. Let's see how many. Put in the comments below on how many of these on this list you agree with, because I can definitely see it. Jerry 0007 says, "These are my main reasons I keep coming back. Harrying people, finding the occasional talented player who gives me a good fight, getting invaded by people, especially blue bros, invading gankers, and winning a well-fought duel. All of the random bizarre stuff that can occur, beating up a bunch of people, one after the other in fight clubs, trying new weapons or setups, dueling my friends, losing to a superior player fair and square, clutch victories in my favor, super parrying people." I gotta say, I agree with. I'm pretty sure I don't see anyone that I disagree with. Yeah, no, I mean, this is a really good list. I mean, what can I say? Pairing, obviously, tremendous. When you have any good fights, tremendous. Invading is usually fun. Getting invaded, I absolutely love. I love getting invaded much more than I love invading. And the reason why is they're coming to my house, and I just want to clear them out and destroy them. Be like, now you're going to fear me next time you try to invade me, you son of a pig. That's why I love when people invade me, because I'm like, this is what happens when you invade me. Next time you better crystal out and give me that ultra victory, you know what I'm saying? Random bizarre stuff like, when they used to, before the patch, when people used to be able to get hit off the bridge. Oh my god. I've seen that in a few fights, and it's that might rival the feeling of getting parries. If just like super sorting somebody off the side. So stupid they took that out. Trying new weapons or setups, I basically do that every time I play. Dueling my friends, I will say I actually kind of not like dueling my friends as much, because you don't want to play as hard against friends. Like, I don't know, that one's weird. A lot of times I really try to take those as light as possible, and there's certain people, certain friends that can take it very serious, and that can get in the way of, I guess, your friendship, if you will. Losing to superior players, fair and square. I'll be honest, I think I said it earlier, not to sound like a dick. It doesn't happen very often to me anymore. It used to happen, obviously, all the time, because I used to be a spammer back in like my first 20 videos or something, because I just didn't know how to play. I never parried. I don't think I started backstepping till like video 60 or something, whenever Lord Relic came in and was like, you gotta backstep. So like, it's funny, the stuff you learn over time. You can definitely see between my first video and my now last video or whatever, the difference in skill level and sort of coming into my own as a player, which is another reason why I love PvP. Clutch victories, yeah, I mean, I gotta say, very few times when there's a close fight I lose, and I mean very few. And this only, if I have a good weapon, I would say it's almost none. Honestly, it's almost none. If I have a slower weapon, I'll lose sometimes, because sometimes the last hit with the slower weapon is impossible. Super parrying people, I don't know if I've ever actually super parried somebody in a real PvP fight, so I can only imagine what that feels like. Next up, we have El Kaisor. The potential for naked fist fight. I don't come in contact with that too often, but I can definitely see where being naked is exciting. Anyways, next up, Exodus the Great. As an invader, the hunt. The feeling of invading a world and not knowing what await you. A gang squad? A new player? A group of people co-oping? You don't know. Upon entering the host world, you must hunt through the level, looking for signs of progress, and finally finding out just what was waiting for you. Sometimes it's a group of players that destroy you immediately, but other times it's a long, drawn-out fight that spans the entire area, ending in victory. No duel can give me the elation that comes from that moment after 20 minutes of fighting. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, Yeah, 20 minutes of fighting, the host resummoning his buddies, and using the entire level to my advantage. When the host falls and I leave in victory, I doubt I would ever get tired of invading. I gotta say, this is very well written. I I have to agree. Like, I didn't say invading wasn't exciting, but this guy really makes invading much more exciting than I once thought. Now, when I invade now in the game and on the Xbox 360, you almost can't invade anywhere except for the bridge. So I actually don't like. I can't really get this. I can't really go through a level because it just doesn't happen when you're on the bridge. Um, in the DLC, I did get a few of those where I had to run and try to find somebody to see, oh, did they break this barrel? Did they break this pot? Blah, 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 and find where they are. And I can definitely see how that's exciting. I will say, though, I do get frustrated not being able to find somebody. And I've had people hide on me to the point where I just had no idea. And a lot of time ran out. And I'm like, well, what the hell? Sending them messages like, where the hell were you? It's like, yeah, sorry, I had to hide. Like, that's not, like, hide and seek is fun maybe for a little bit, but that sucks. That sucks. But yeah, no, well written, and I can see how that's very exciting. Next up, we have Anunnakis. I like fighting someone who uses the entire palette of moves and several different weapons, unlocks a lot, baits, and changes direction. It's light and has zero poise, is not afraid to try technically flamboyant moves that very often fail just for the sake of trying it. I get totally bored, literally my eyes close, when I see a buff addict, especially if he wear a heavy armor with a buff katana, denial, homing orbs, and of swords, etc. I get horribly annoyed by good players who hide behind shields and play it super safe like Yukis typically always does. This is actually the only situation where I rage in PvP. Bad players hiding behind shields are no problem for obvious reasons, but a guy using a shield and a longsword while knowing how to keep the measure is my worst nightmare. What a waste of expertise. Wow, well, I mean, this is somebody ranting against Yukis Legion. I've never seen Yukis play, so I have no idea how he plays. But yeah, there are some people who they do use shields well. You know, they use a shield, so they shield. You try to hit them, they shield, and then because they have a long sword or S-stock or something, they can just poke you really quick. I can see where you think it's cheap. There are obvious ways around. You use your S-stock or you use something that has elemental damage, and you try to do that, or you just break their poise or destroy their stamina. Of course, that won't happen to a good player, right? Obviously, generally, I would say. But I don't know. I mean, I can definitely see where you like the technical flamboyancy. That's Lord Relic. That's not me. You probably watch my videos and you're like, this guy. And a lot of people say this, like, this guy sucks. Like, this guy, he does nothing amazing. And I generally don't do anything amazing. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say I'm flashy, flamboyant, whatever. But then people have played me, and they're like, oh, wow, you actually aren't that bad. It's like, oh, you lost. Of course I wasn't that bad. I mean, I did win. It's like, oh, no. It's just funny how that goes. Like, the difference in styles of watching, playing, and doing. It's all different. And I can definitely see where somebody gets bored of buffed addicts. I actually take that as not boring. I actually kind of like that in a sense where, all right, so I'm gimped. They're not. If I win, guess what? I feel a little bit better. But I like it both ways. I like someone who doesn't buff because I'm like, oh, this is more fair, and let's see how skilled they are. So it's like, try to do it half full, right? You want to have the glass half full. But yeah. Next up, we have the soup. The soup is here, and the soup says, the soup says, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just too excited. I love fighting people with unique weapon combos, or rarely use weapons, as you've mentioned, who really know their weapon and have a big arsenal of tactics and combos that they employ during the fight. It's one thing to sit in Majula for hours, like I do, and practice combos, but it's a whole different ball game actually putting those tactics to practical use in a match. Acute game mechanics and the advanced tech is what keeps PvP fresh, keeps the PvP fresh and exciting for me. If there weren't all these glitches, pseudo combos, weird exploits, I would have stopped playing long ago. Oh, and the ladle. Live by the ladle. Die by the ladle. Amen. Yeah, I could definitely agree with you. I love seeing new tactics. Like, one sort of new-ish thing I've seen is, somebody does it, they use like a great hammer on the right hand, and then S-Stock or something on the left hand. But they do the roll thing. They break your poison. They're able to poke you once, maybe even twice. And it's just interesting that way because, that's not something I ever saw. But the problem is, when I did see it, then I just never, got hit. I was like, I knew, all right, this is coming. This is happening, blah, blah, blah. And that's also what he's talking about, is people having a full arsenal. People not just using the same old trick in the book over and over and over and over. Because against any adept player, it shouldn't work. And if it does work, well, then honestly, the fault is on the opponent for not noticing that or not getting away from that. So I definitely agree with that also. And I somewhat agree with these I don't agree technically with the glitches, but I think I don't think he does either. I think what he means is sort of like when you do a running attack with a katana or even two-hand katana, or I think most weapons do this. But you do the running attack and then you press the RB, then you can roll faster. I think that's what he means. Like those sort of weird exploits, like the double roll, like the attack cancel, like stuff like that, where it's sort of exploity. It's not like glitchy, but it's sort of like, sort of breaking the game down slightly, where I'm assuming they didn't intentionally put that in the game. It just was something that somebody figured out, I think that's what he means. But yeah, the ladle, the soup. Anyway, next up we have Honey Badger. Onion blows in Gwim pants get me all wiped up. Gankos get me hard stayed up. And then Filt all, I think I love you. I don't understand it, but Onion Bros, Gurm Pants, Gankers, and someone gets straight up. Anyways, next up, Strelok. I like fighting people who don't use the fast, quick weapons. I can definitely see where you have fun in that. There's a lot more reaction in those type of fights, where I can understand why people would appreciate that. So, yeah. Septic Guy Sam is back, and he says, wait, Dante, you get excited about whips? Man, that's kinky. I do like whips, and I am kinky, so I'm not going to deny it. Real Ogre 32 says, I love rushing spellcasters and smashing those glass cannons. I can definitely agree with that, and I can definitely say I've done that many times. In fact, I believe that's generally how you can beat a lot of pure casters, is if you get too close to them, then they're done. Of course, there are, I forgot what the spell was, the flame, or not flame, soul flash, I think, where, if you're too close. But then you got to notice if that's happening, so sometimes you just got to know the game, basically. Mr. Gargamel says, he says, cause it's Souls PvP. Dark Souls 2 is also a bit unique in one way. Almost all weapons are viable for PvP, make it possible for endless combinations of weapons that are good, even if they perhaps not are top tier. I can definitely see what he's saying. I do believe there are people who can make certain weapons work, but I also do believe there are just certain weapons at a certain skill level that just are not PvP viable. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like hammers. If you have somebody with a hammer and you're going against basically anybody else, you're not going to do well. All right. Similar skill level is what I'm saying. Just hammers are just bad. They're short. They don't do as much damage as they should. That's all I can say. But I do agree that the viability for many weapons, and of course endless combinations, is very awesome in this game. And then I believe we have other people. Yeah, we have Nathorn. He says, it's always the first match of the day that gets my heart racing the most, especially if the duel goes longer than expected. Also because sometimes the PvP just feels real. The whole PvP mechanic is so far the best I've ever encountered. And thirdly, some player names which you already have fought can do that. Excitement. That's true. Yuri Bicho. Now, Yuri Bicho, I don't have a problem, beating him or fighting him. But he is a good player. Like, I'm not going to say he isn't a good player. I believe they're from Brazil, so the connection isn't the best. And just something about that name. I don't know why. Something about that name, it excites me. I generally see them always have Havel, so I was like, all right, I know I'm not going to do any damage. So I just get excited for those fights, and it's, Yuri Bicho, and now I see some names like The Soup, You know, it just certain names you see, and it just like even if I know I might win certain matches, it's still exciting, you know, especially if you know the person. Like if I see Lord Relic, you know, Lord Relic has beaten me, of course. But if I see him and let's say he's using a weird combo, uh, like a Twin Blade or something dumb, and I'm using like a decent weapon like Sun Sword or something like that. Like, you know, generally I'm probably gonna win that fight, but that might be just a difference in weapons. I'm still excited for the fight because I want to see what the hell does Lord Relic have next, right? Like, what is he doing now? Is he gonna roll punish the piss out of me with this thing? Like, how is he gonna work this into his new play? Because he switches up here and there. Am I gonna get parried? Like, what's gonna happen? Can I parry him and make him cry about it? You know, I just love stuff like that. But yeah, I can definitely see it. Um, oh man, I don't know how you say your name. I believe you're Brazilian, but it's Guilherme Saleh. Don't know how to say it, man. But anyways, he says when I'm done fighting with a Havel monster with a ice rapier spamming. So I think this is more of like this is what you hate, unless you beat him. I guess if you beat a Havel monster with ice rapier, that's pretty good, especially if it's buffed up with dark. And lastly, we have on Factual Light, a viral ensign says, for me, it's the chance to really step up the difficulty of someone's Dark Souls experience. I'm not really there to be malicious and ruin your game, but I am there to add a new layer of difficulty to the area you are wandering through. I also get a real kick out of introducing RP to the game to the point where I was playing as a finito in the Undead Crypts and messaging hosts to not bring light into the crypts. If they complied, I was happy to let them through the area. I'd even help some, but Nito, have mercy on their souls if they lit that torch of use that spell. I also quite enjoy, to a lesser extent, becoming proficient with lesser known used weapons. The Scythe of Want, Forlorn, and the Crypt Blacksword were my two favorites. Unfortunately, I was never able to use the Forlorn. I believe that's a exclusive to the Scholar of the First Sin, I believe. Crypt Blacksword, that actually is a favorite of people, so that's interesting you would mention that. Scythe of Want, no. Scythe of Want, I think that is the Scythe of choice. It's still not used that much. But yeah, I mean, this is awesome. I gotta say, being that finito guy and, you know, hating the light and attacking them after you send messages and, you know, doing that in corner, I think that's awesome. I think that brings a whole, it really does bring a whole new level of role playing. I gotta admit, you did it, Viral Ensign. You brought a whole new level. I think that's awesome. You're taking it to the next level. The cosplay, really going in there, digging deep. I think it'd be awesome if you dressed as Velstad or whatever, or dressed as the was it the, not the Ivory, is it? No, Fume Knight. Or yeah, Fume Knight. And if somebody was using anything Velstad, you buffed up and you just attacked them, you know, stuff like that. Like that was already in the game. Or same thing with the Alan, with the Alan guy, Sir Alan, is if you were either getting destroyed or maybe it was a good fight and they were definitely probably going to win, and you did seppuku because that's what Alan would do, you know. Stuff like that it really does add to the game, and I think that's awesome. I definitely think that's exciting, especially if the other person you went against, whether they win or lose, appreciated it. And that's rare with invasions and, you know, stuff like that. So I think that is awesome. But I hope you guys enjoyed everybody's answers. I know I did. We had some pretty kick-ass answers, especially this last one here. I've already told you my thoughts on it. It's like a lot of things are exciting. A lot of just new experiences. Really, it's new experiences, finding something new. Even if you lose to something new you've never seen. I remember the first time I got parried and someone did Flame Swath. Then they did the riposte. Then they did the eruption one. The fire of eruption. I forgot the one you get from the guy in the wall and the... Alright, my brain is melting. Okay, let's be honest. You're probably going to put it in the comments below and be like, you're an idiot. You're dumb. You don't know what Souls is. And I understand that right now because I do look like an idiot. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Alright, I believe it starts with an E, but I just can't remember it. Whatever. Anyways, put it in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you liked any of these answers. Tell me if you hated these answers. Tell me if you have a different answer for some reason. And yeah, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think, and I will be back